Lisa, to our Bitcoin as a store of value podcast. We are very delighted to have you as a guest for the 17th episode. And we can start maybe with you introducing yourself and your path towards understanding and becoming an advocate on Bitcoin.
Well, thank you for having me. I love that it's number 17. 17 is my favorite number. I became an advocate for Bitcoin after just falling down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, trying to figure out how to get rich on magic internet money. And once you spend enough time trying to figure out how to get rich with magic internet money, you realize how many other things are broken, and you realize that every time you've ever said, oh, that person is a conspiracy theorist, that you really should have been taking note, and those people should probably be your friends. So I was lucky enough to meet Parker Lewis at a conference several years ago in Austin, and a few weeks later, I went to work at Unchained, and kind of the rest is history. Love the space. It's a privilege to be able to talk to you guys and to really uncover what I think is the solution for, almost every problem that we have, right? Problem number one is humanity is being degraded because humanity has no way of preserving their own personal energy, right? We have no way of protecting and preserving the byproduct of us getting up in the morning and going to work. So that's, what else can I tell you?
Yeah, go ahead.
No, okay, thanks Lisa, for the introduction. Yeah, I also really like that me as well, I joined Bitcoin, was in 2017, because the price was going up. So not for other reason, not for revolutionary money, for philosophy and so on, but then you discover these later on. So I think we have a similar path. Me started 2017, then dismissed Bitcoin and started again from 2020-21. Not by coincidence, the years where the Bitcoin price goes up. Also very interesting. The more you learn about Bitcoin, the more you see that it's really the biggest problem that we have in the world is that our monetary system, our money doesn't work as a good store of value. Francesco, your comment?
Me too. I can relate. Same year, same reason, and same outcome, I would say. And I wanted to tell to the audience that we chose this title of our podcast, Store of Value, Bitcoin as a Store of Value, because that's what happened to all of us. We came there to find something valuable to make our portfolio better, to have better returns, and that's a store of value. And so that's the first entrance into Bitcoin. So that was the reason for to name the space like that. And talking about your CV, I saw your previous positions, roles. So you were, because it has a lot to do with Bitcoin, in my opinion, you were a natural gas trader, and we could link this your previous job to the opportunities to the state of the mining into Bitcoin. And what do you think, Alessandro?
Yes, definitely. The experience of Lisa in the energy and mining history will be precious for our podcast and for all the listeners.
Yeah, because I was just reading a report from ARK Investments. They were saying that, and also Alessandro did a very good video on that before, 2 years ago. They were stating that there are under 25 billion cubic meters of wasted, basically vented methane, which is the most toxic gas in our atmosphere environment. And also other 25 billion of flared emissions, which are wasted, not used, unused. From given your experience in this field, how do you see potential? What are the limits? What are the opportunities? Why the mining farmers are not pursuing this way of monetization enough, and can government chime in and be part of this advancement both in terms of mining or Bitcoin and for the environment as well?
Well, I think of Bitcoin mining a little bit like a calculator, or an Excel spreadsheet for an energy company. If we think about the progression of how those guys have refined the technology to pull natural resources from the earth, they have moved forward when there has been an advancement that suits them. So no energy company is using an abacus, right? They're modeling with Excel, or they're modeling on something they've built. And Bitcoin mining is a tool that is very accretive to energy companies. So if I'm a power plant, and I have, I send electricity to a grid. So if I send electricity to ERCOT, there are times when those power generation companies actually produce more than what the grid calls for. So rather than shutting off, the supply has to meet demand, they drop their price. Or in some instances, the price is negative. They actually essentially pay to have excess power taken so that they don't have to shut down their facility. When you bring a Bitcoin miner into the fold, right, it's the advancement from an abacus to a piece of paper and a pencil or a calculator or whatever the next transition was. You don't need to be paying someone else to take something that you've made anymore. Apple doesn't pay us to take iPhones. Power generation companies shouldn't pay a grid to take excess power. That shouldn't be a negative cost to a power generator. There are lots of examples across in the energy space, whether I'm a compressor station. So as gas moves through a pipeline and maybe it comes into a compressor station or it enters into a gas processing plant, take the heat loss as the gas is moving from and basically mine Bitcoin. So I think of it as this tool that allows you to fine tune the economics of your operation. And certainly, yes, a lot of opportunity to take gas that's flared. And we all see images of West Texas where these, flares are going up into the sky. But there also is flared gas is like, in places on jungle, or imagine a jungle terrain where there's actually oil and gas being produced, but only an oil pipe. Maybe because the topography of the land, it was just too challenging to move the gas, maybe up a mountain or down a mountain, or it could have been more challenging, right? So they chose to build out the oil pipeline so that they could move the natural resources to a place where it could be monetized. But they're flaring gas right there. So in these examples, there are Bitcoin miners today who are in jungleless conditions solving this problem, solving problems we didn't know existed, or that you and I weren't aware of. Certainly someone was aware of it, but there was no way to capture those molecules. There was no way to monetize those molecules. So again, I think that Bitcoin mining is ultimately not a first order business, but I think it will come into huge. It will become a huge industry as it is wrapped into every other business out there. I've heard mining CEOs talk about, eventually your car will be mining Bitcoin, or your toaster will be mining Bitcoin. Depending on how high the Bitcoin price goes, and I think it goes tremendously higher, there will be people who are creative, looking for solutions to, okay, how do I make this, right? Like, where is there an availability of either a direct energy source or a heat recapture, or, how am I going to turn tires? How can I refine tires down so that it's productive for me to sell the byproducts, and maybe with that heat in that process, I'm mining Bitcoin. I mean, we can't even know where the limits are with Bitcoin mining, which is why I think it's the most exciting. I think it's the most exciting thing about Bitcoin, because when we have abundant energy, we have, homeland security. We have obviously the ability for businesses to thrive. I mean, I often talk about how I believe, Bitcoin mining is really integral to national security. And I know Jason Lowery has his theory, which I don't dispute at all. However, just in very simple terms, national security is dependent on successful businesses, and, the ability for us in the U.S. to have energy in order to make steel in order for us to make buildings so that we can make Coca-Cola, right? All of those things employ people and provide us with a standard of living that we're accustomed to. And where there is no energy, there is not the ability for those other follow-ons to happen. So if you can't have businesses and a strong economy inside of a country, I mean, often, I think always, it is based on the amount of energy that is being treated in the most accretive way. Maybe I'll pause there. I said a lot.
Thanks for all the information. Amazing also your experience in Bitcoin mining. For me, it's always impressing what the really asymmetric information in Bitcoin, and maybe the real, even more in Bitcoin mining. So when you don't know about Bitcoin, generally people think Bitcoin consumes too much energy, Bitcoin is bad for the environment. And then when you deep dive in Bitcoin, then for sure you get involved in Bitcoin mining, and you see that it's a real big win-win-win. So win for the company, the energy company, win for Bitcoiners, and win for the environment. On this, there was also a post from Daniel Batten today or yesterday. He was also saying that the narrative, so firstly, we have less articles on Bitcoin mining. And this, I think, because before there were more people against Bitcoin in general. But also this article, before we were mostly against Bitcoin. Now, since April 2023, are or more neutral or positive towards Bitcoin. When do you think, Lisa, will happen that the mainstream narrative finally will tell the truth, that Bitcoin mining is not consuming too much energy, is consuming excess of energy, and that by combusting methane that otherwise will be flared or will be vented to the atmosphere, it will contribute to reduce the amount of CO2 released in the atmosphere. Do you think it will happen next year, or maybe we take maybe five years still?
I think it's fair to say that we are not good storytellers in Bitcoin. It pains me when I go on Twitter and I see folks arguing, within our ecosystem as we tear one another down. We need to focus on what story it is that we're looking to tell and figure out how to tell it so that it reaches the mass market. Because, I think Elizabeth Warren and her friends I think she's the biggest threat to national security. Because of her opinion of Bitcoin or crypto broadly, we have to quit giving them airtime. And I think, unfortunately, they just, we're waiting for them to go off into the great beyond. What gives me a lot of hope are the younger folks that are coming into our space. I see Build with Bitcoin on the down in the audience. I mean, watch some of their podcasts where they have founders on or folks that are in venture talking about all of the new projects, right? If you watch those, it's never the 80-year-old person who's launching a product in Bitcoin. We need to focus our attention on the builders and the younger generation that's coming in, because I think that they are the younger generation. They are faced with a brutal reality, which is they have to recreate. They have to create for them the future for themselves. They have to create a new path. The old path is not going to be sustainable, right? They can't. I was listening to Natalie Brunell had a woman on from Dallas. She just posted this today. Sorry, I've forgotten the woman's name, but the woman was incredibly bright. She's a real estate expert. And although we're starting to see a decline in some demand for real estate, it isn't going away at a rate where it will ever be affordable for young people to own houses. And that's how most folks in the U.S., at least, have grown their wealth, is they've made an investment in real estate. They've lived in a house for 10 years or 50 years. The house is appreciated. That's their retirement. If you're 25 years old, you're most likely thinking, I'm never going to be able to afford a house. So when people ask me, how did you get your daughter involved in Bitcoin? First of all, we started learning about it, and we were living in two different places, studying kind of two different tracks of Bitcoin. But she was 15 years old, and I told her that she had to go get a job. And when she had that job, she had to take all the money and deposit it into a retirement account. I made her open a Roth IRA account. And it was like, well, okay, but why am I doing this? And I said, well, because you have to figure out how to have enough money to live when you're 80, right? Or 90 or whatever how can you plan for the future? And when you start having those conversations with younger people, what is it going to take? One of the things that Ella said to me was, gosh, Mom, I just didn't even realize how expensive it is just to wake up and go breathe, right? Think about the number of dollars that it takes for each of us to exist day to day. How do we compact that into the tiny bit of our life where we're in the prime of our life and prime earning season? How do we compact that to provide for ourselves until we're, let's say, 95 or 97? My grandparents, one lived to 95, one lived to 97. When you start analyzing how you can do this, you realize really quickly that I can't hold it in cash. And I think, as we fell down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, we realized we really didn't want to hold it in anything that was dollar denominated. There was a lot of risk, no matter if it was NVIDIA or a zombie company. If it's dollar denominated, it has risk. So, I think that as this store of value conversation continues and I think this becomes a much bigger issue in a much broader topic. Hopefully, the topic reaches more people. I just am not quite sure that the average. I'm not quite sure that the message has been communicated well, that we have to figure out how to preserve energy. We have to figure out how to protect ourselves. We have to figure out how to take, the energy that we have in the prime of our life, prime earning season, and have that translate to 50 years or 60 years down the road.
Definitely a good point on the younger generation understanding the problem more and more. I see also many videos in X. They're coming from TikTok, but I see them in X where people who are 25, 28, they say, I study university, I have a job, and I can barely made it through, especially if they live alone, especially with this inflation. Plus, the high inflation we had in the previous 2-3 years ago is helping the narrative. Third, also, now it's getting more and more clear that real estate, apart of having difficulty in having real estate, in owning real estate, but also real estate as a business. The houses will likely not appreciate as they were appreciating 20 or 30 years ago. So, as connected to what you said before, what was working maybe 20 or 30 years ago, maybe having bonds and having real estate is not working anymore now. And many people they don't understand that it's not that by following the steps of their parents or the generation of their parents will play out in the same way. But where I found the difficulty is to make the connection. Okay, this is the problem. This is not working anymore. Then why Bitcoin is working? And one of the reasons for sure is also in our Bitcoin ecosystem there are many Bitcoiners discussing each other, and it looks like no one is Bitcoiner enough. There is always someone who is more Bitcoiner than you, and and sometimes this is detrimental for the whole ecosystem. Which will be your advice on this? Which would be like, for example, the biggest topics that Bitcoiners should tell the common people interested in Bitcoin?
So to go back to your previous question, I mean, when does this turn over? The answer is, when do we tell better stories? Like I said, we are not great at telling stories. We need to figure out how to do that. I am way down the Seth Godin rabbit hole. I don't know if you guys know who he is. He's been in marketing his whole career, but he really speaks to the helping people find purpose and having messages that help people align with products. And I think that's, to me, what has been the easiest way to communicate about Bitcoin is to go to someone and say, look, I noticed that you love the national parks. I noticed that you love to be outdoors. I noticed that you love to spend all of your time with families. I noticed that you have real estate in a beautiful, pristine, untouched place. I noticed that you love to hunt and fish, and that private property rights are very important to you, right? When you align with someone else's value and can highlight to them that those values are very similar to the values of Bitcoin, I think it becomes much easier for them to see. I think Bitcoin is a huge value alignment tool. I think it's the reason why we're all here on this space. It's the reason why I love going to Bitcoin conferences, because you guys are amazing to be around. And I know when I walk in that we are aligned at perhaps one of the deepest levels. We're respectful of one another's freedom of speech. We're respectful of private property. And if I could just go on a tangent on the private property front, Greg Foss gave this example a couple of years ago, probably now. And he said, there's $900 trillion of total global assets, right? So commodities, money, fine art, real estate, bonds, everything. Throw it all in. Rolex, Daytona watches. Throw it all in the punch bowl. There's $900 trillion that people are invested in. And he gave the example that what would a 5% allocation to Bitcoin do to Bitcoin price? So 5% of 900 trillion is 45 trillion divided by 21 million gets you to $2.14 million a Bitcoin. Great example. That makes people go, oh, wow. But Bitcoin's 50,000 or it's 16,000. How will it ever get to 2.14 million? So then you say, okay, well, maybe Bitcoin takes over 1% of total global assets, gets you to a much smaller number. But actually, if we think about who owns those total global assets, right, it isn't the woman in Iran. It isn't the family in Cuba. It isn't, frankly, it isn't most of America. Most of America doesn't have, although we all watch the TD Ameritrade commercials endlessly, I'm not sure why. And I think probably in our sphere, it seems like everyone has a trading account, but I think factually most people don't. And Bitcoin is the first form of property that can be held by every human on earth, regardless of property rights. So again, aligning your values or helping someone see how their values are very aligned with Bitcoin is the tack that I've taken, to date. And I think that's why like I said, I'm down the Seth Godin rabbit hole of really studying how to tell stories, because we have to get better at this, or it's going to take a very long time for Bitcoin to realize its full potential and to affect every human on Earth.
Yeah, totally. If I could add, it's not that we are not good into storytelling. We are not also that good into strategy, into planning for Bitcoin. But I think this is just a result that it's a tiny market. It's not the quality of Bitcoin, which is outstanding. But even going, I have 2 points, 2 questions. One is, given your experience in this sector of gas trading, I mean, do you see any reason why a natural gas company doesn't want to monetize those 250 billion cubic meters of wasted and toxic methane into Bitcoin, into money? Because I don't see any. But the answer from my side is that we don't propose it. The companies are not taking the initiative to try to leverage on the green quality features of this system of monetization of vented flared gas. And also, they're forgetting that this will be easily digested from government, and so I really don't see any reason why such a low number of Bitcoin miners use the vented and the flared meta. But as you say, also it's a matter of demand. When the price will be higher, it will create demand, and more players will try to do what we are saying. I just want to have a quick thought on that, and then I will have another question for you if you can answer to this one from your experience into the gas trading.
I think that Bitcoin mining, they're certainly all aware that that's happening, but realistically, what they're good at is getting natural resources out of the ground. And if they're going to go raise money, let's say that you're an independent oil and gas guy, and you send an email out on a Friday, and you send an email to 15 of your friends, and you're like, hey, I'm raising because I'm going to go drill this well, right? Like, they've all done that tens, if not hundreds of times before. Their community of investors are familiar with the risk. They're all familiar operationally with what that looks like. Everybody knows how to do that. And then you talk about Bitcoin mining, and I tell you that, for less than 1% of your production, I'm going to help you, not me, but the Bitcoin miners are going to help you, monetize those molecules. And they're like, I don't flipping care, right? Like, I've got this well over here that I'm going to go drill. So I think that it is on their radar. It's Bitcoin price is frankly just not maybe high enough to maybe lure them into the Bitcoin mining space. I mean, some of them obviously are doing this. You see partnerships with Caruso and I know that the Giga guys and Steve Barber at Upstream Data, right? Like, they are working directly with small oil and gas producers. But I'm not sure when we begin to see this happen at scale, hopefully sooner rather than later. But I will tell you that the folks that I speak with in the oil and gas space often just say it's just like not even, it's like a flea on the skin of a cow or something, right? Like, it's just not that big of a deal to them today for them to do anything about. But again, as maybe when Bitcoin price is $2.14 million, they do figure out how to put a drill ship next to a platform that's in the Gulf of Mexico. And instead of putting gas in the pipeline and sending it back to Texas or to Louisiana, they're mining Bitcoin, right? Like, the economics of all of this is is ever changing and changing dramatically, which is very different from what oil and gas and oil and gas development or investment typically looks like. Then the other thing I was just going to say, kind of on that same note, again, like to pick on Elizabeth Warren, because I just really think what she's done has been harmful to the U.S. economy. It's been harmful to national security. Putting out narratives that are damaging to Bitcoin it's like saying to the people that live in your country, if I'm Elizabeth Warren and I say something terrible about Bitcoin and it's only used by terrorists, it's almost as telling your constituents that you hate them and that you want them, you don't value their lives. Because if you were telling the truth, you would be spreading the message with all of us that Bitcoin is the most pristine asset ever, and helping educate people about the value of scarcity, right? It's impossible for me. Sometimes I laugh when I'm out to dinner at a whatever event and somebody has on a Rolex Daytona watch, which they have waited in line to get for like 2 years or 5 years or something, and they've paid 3 times retail or 4 times retail. And these same people don't understand the scarcity when it's attached to Bitcoin. It boggles the mind.
I see. So again, the market cap is in charge, and the demand will make multiply these operations hopefully in the future. But I can see your point is they don't care, and I can completely understand. It's more a nuisance than something good from the point of view. Alessandro, you did also a very good presentation on that topic. So do you agree with this view? Or?
Definitely, I agree also that so the price, for many, the price is too low, both in Bitcoin mining and also in understanding Bitcoin. I guess once we reach more than 100K, maybe there will be more interest. Now, for many, it's like, okay, or I get Bitcoin in 5 minutes, or then no, it's too complex. And you need a lot of education to understand Bitcoin. And many, they don't have the patience. But it's not that they don't have the patience. Is the price is too low for them to be patient on Bitcoin. Once we have much higher price, probably they will ask, okay, I missed this. How can it be that it is a tulip, a bubble, no intrinsic value, it is 100, 120K, and maybe they will allocate finally time to understand it. I had the same question of Lisa on scarcity. Like people understand the more scarcity. Also, the house in Miami or in Manhattan, in New York, it's limited, so the price is going up. And I think the connection why they are not getting on Bitcoin is because with money, we are used to have money that should not be scarce, even if it's counterintuitive, is a nonsense from monetary history. We always look as a society at the assets that were more scarce. But now with the fiat system, the general thought is more money is more money. If it is not that much more, but we have a slight inflation, is good for the economy. So I think that is also one of the reasons why they have difficulty in connecting scarcity with money. It's because we live also in the fiat system where someone is clicking a button, and we have, without any proof of work, much more money. Lisa, what do you think?
Again, I'm not quite sure that most people knew that the government was printing money, maybe prior to COVID, right? I'm not quite sure any of us really paid attention to the slow, gradual slope upward of the money supply in the system prior to COVID. I think that now it's obviously you can't miss it. I see the old Taylor. You've had your hand up.
Yeah. Hey. Hi, Lisa. Hi, everyone. I just wanted to go back for a minute to your point about us needing to be better at telling stories, and maybe offer a little bit of my history in Bitcoin and maybe some resources that we have that you guys may not be aware of. So, first of all, are you guys all aware of Angel Studios?
No, I'm not.
So, how about the Tuttle Twins cartoon?
Yes.
Okay, so or like the Chosen TV show or things like that. So the Tuttle Twins cartoon is produced by Angel Studios. They did a Bitcoin episode that shared around Bitcoin Twitter quite a bit, and they have a second Bitcoin episode coming out with Safedine in it this season. And so Angel Studios is founded by the Harmon brothers. One of them is Jeff Harmon. He's one of my good friends. And so my background in Bitcoin, I've been in Bitcoin since 2013, and that was because Jeff Harmon and my friend Austin Craig were doing a documentary called Life on Bitcoin, which is actually at Life on Bitcoin on Twitter, and where Austin lived his first 90 days of being married, only spending Bitcoin in 2013, and they were producing this, and they're the ones that, orange pilled me. We were all Ron Paul libertarians already, so we were pretty primed to kind of understand the value proposition of Bitcoin as a way to take down the Federal Reserve, maybe. And so we were all pretty quick to become big Bitcoin fans in 2013. And so anyway, those guys had an ad agency called Harmon Brothers. They did like the Squatty Potty commercial. They did like a lot of those commercials you would see on the web. I don't know, chat books, just a bunch of commercials. You're probably familiar with a lot of them. And they've since founded Angel Studios, so they own Angel.com now, and they crowdsource. They have what's called the Angel Guild, and their whole mission is to amplify or to create stories that amplify light. And so they also conveniently are massive Bitcoiners and have been since 2013 because of this history with this documentary. And they put $10 million on their balance sheet in Bitcoin in 2021, which was right after Saylor did it. They copied him and went pretty big with that too. But the way they decide how to produce content is through what they call the Angel Guild, and I may not have this quite right, but people submit projects, and it works its way through these. It's like a crowdsourced voting system, kind of. I don't have a lot of detail on that, but it works its way through this process, and that's how this stuff becomes reality. And so that's a big option for anyone who's a creative out there and who wants to produce films or TV shows. And they're definitely like a Bitcoin friendly company and Bitcoin experienced people that work there. And they're master storytellers. I mean, these ads dominated the internet for years that they did with Harmon Brothers as Harmon Brothers. And now they have a lot of hit big TV shows. So we have some allies, and they're dabbling in Bitcoin stories through the Tuttle Twins cartoon. But yeah, anyone who's a creative and who can do that stuff, that's a pretty gaping opportunity that they would be pretty open to, I'm pretty sure. So I just wanted to kind of make that known. Their Twitter handle is @Angel Studios Inc., I believe, and give them a follow. But that's a way for us to tell stories that I think aligns very well. I mean, they're Ron Paul libertarians, they're property right diehards, and I think that they're Bitcoiners. They've been Bitcoiners since 2013. So I just wanted to make everyone aware of that.
That's a serious flex. Thank you.
Thanks for highlighting this. Also, being in Bitcoin since 2013 is a big thing. Like the time would have been, there were very, very few Bitcoiners at the time.
Yeah, going also to the management, banking, and account. I don't know if account anyway experience and traditional finance. If you had as a trader, but I think you have more as a Bitcoiner working with Custodia and other Bitcoin banks. How do you see the possibility for the average person not to get scared from the volatility? How they can Bitcoin empower them? In my opinion, it could be, of course, education, but also the right strategy in terms of DCA and as a way to the risk Bitcoin and study it to the point which can be seen as a saving account. Is this strategy enough? Because majority of people are not speculators. They don't like speculation. They want, but to stress the saving feature of Bitcoin and the DCA approach can be enough to onboard the next billion users of Bitcoin.
Yeah, but it's. I think again we need to shift the narrative from this is a speculative, that it could be speculative or it's an alternative investment, to let's just go flat out back to we're saving money, right? We're just saving, because everything else is speculative. If it's dollar denominated and a government has the right to take it away from you, as Russia so critically found out, right? It's that is speculative. You are betting that the management team or a country or someone else does not impede your ability to use your money when it's time, when the time has come. I mean, it's I've said before, like, money is a call option on your good or service that you want in the future, right? So let's just go back to saving. That's how I describe it to folks. Like, you're not speculating. Just start a savings account of Bitcoin. It is going to be the last money that you'll ever spend. I was actually with someone today who runs a little shop, and she was like, "Oh, are you still in the crypto thing?" And I said, "Well, I'm in Bitcoin." And okay, will you show me how to use this? I think I need to buy some. People are saying that the price is going higher. And I said, look, yes, I'll show you how to do it, but just think of it as literally the last money that you'll ever spend in your life, right? Like the money that you'll spend when you're 90. And I'm not a fan of DCA. I mean, I have done it in the past. I'm not doing it currently. For me, it's all about that like hit of dopamine of seeing the flash. My strike message that says, "Oh, I had it set for like every hour for a long time, and it was super fun." But I mean, I think, take something that is valuable, take an amount that is valuable to you, and make an investment in your future at a time, whether it's once a month or put it all in today. I've got, I got $1,000 back from my tax refund. Okay, I'm going to take that 1,000 and buy Bitcoin. I'm kind of an all-in person once I find the right answer, right? I'm still making a decision on the people I want to spend the time with or the savings, how I want to save my money.
Any comment, Alessandro, or you can reply to her?
Yes, I am totally aligned with Lisa. Like, also for me, savings account, and actually I'm risk adverse. That's why I save in Bitcoin. If I was having more risky profile, I would try to gamble in something else. I wanted to say for the new joiners, I think it's hard to explain in an easy way why Bitcoin is saving account. What I'm trying to say is at least to try with 1-2%, and then once they have like skin in the game, then likely they will start studying But I always ask, I always say, start with a small amount, something that if you lose, nothing happen. Not because Bitcoin is going to zero, but if you don't have education, when Bitcoin does a minus 10%, people get scared. I also was getting scared in 2017 when I didn't know. And once they learn, then they will understand what Lisa said, that one point is the money that you have on top that you're not using, the best savings technology is Bitcoin.
Yeah, unfortunately, on the course of these 17 spaces, we talked with the best players in Bitcoin. We have learned the one thing, that to realize that they need Bitcoin, they need to see the problem first. So they need to see that the dollar is going to be the base, that the narrative of the government is not true, and this thing. If they have to do a sizable allocation, it can be like that. It can be seen as an investment, as Alessandro said, but that's an investment in terms of having a better return, and you do the classic amount you afford to lose, and then you study, you increase your position as time goes by. That's another approach. But if people don't study and they trust the government, the only solution is talking about the differentiation, in my opinion. And maybe DCA, that's where it fits in to this category of people. If people, I don't know if it makes sense to you, and yeah. How would you entice people who don't want to study, who trust the government, to buy some Bitcoin, and why? Just to say differentiate and do some DCA, but of course we have to push them to lure them a bit. I mean, to entice in a way to study and to not to question the value of the fiat money. Because if you want Bitcoin as the solution, but if you're not aware of the problem, you have a hard time to understand it completely, in my opinion.
Look, people need to have a serious conversation with themselves. Like, forget having a serious conversation with me or you or somebody else in Bitcoin. When you just have a serious conversation with yourself and say, will the government save me if I'm 80 and broke? Or will I be living under a bridge? Well, I don't know. Let me go to Austin or San Francisco or Houston or New York or probably every other city in the United States. There are lots of homeless people living under bridges, and they're there for a reason. So no one is coming after you. No one is coming to catch you before you fall. And, not to, again, harp on the younger generation, but I feel sorry for most of them because they grew up in this coddled way where their parents were going to fight every fight and, protect them from every bit of evil that was coming their way. And that is A, a vote of no confidence in your kids when you do that. But B, you're creating the illusion of safety, and the world is not safe. It's dangerous. There's no one looking out for us, no matter who you are. People talk about how our veterans, Trump or whomever, one of the candidates was saying, oh, the veterans, we've got to take care of them. Oh, they're so important. You know what? No, they're not. Yes, they are very important, but no, we're not taking care of them. The veterans facilities, hospitals, is horrible. It's atrocious. The way that we care for, anyway, I don't want to get on a tirade on the topic. However, just encourage people to have a serious conversation with themselves. Who do you think's coming to help you if times get horrible?
See, it makes. I mean, they should really go a bit deeper and see the risks of the system. And yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely would be, people need also to spend time by themselves in also learning about Bitcoin. I always say, okay, for sure you should listen to podcasts, you should listen to me, but we can make you think about things. Then you need also by yourself, you need to listen, reading books, listen also to other podcasts where also is educating what is money, which is the history of money, how the blockchain is working, how Bitcoin mining is working, and most of the people are not doing. But I think it will be price appreciation that will convince them. Do you think there will be a level where at one point more and more people will start to think, okay, I really need to take Bitcoin serious, and maybe I will start learning about Bitcoin, because apparently 60, 70K is not enough.
No, definitely. Numbers are hugely significant, right? Same thing in the commodities market. When oil is hovering in the 70s or 80s, people talk about 100, right? I think it's the same in the Bitcoin market. We're looking for these significant goalposts, although, as you know, we all know that it's a very insignificant goalpost, right? If I think that it's going to $10 million a coin or $100 million a coin or whatever the unbelievable number might be, 100,000 is just such a rounding error. Which just goes back to my, once I'm all in, I'm all in. If I were starting today, I would not tell someone to DCA. It's like, look, how much air do you want to preserve for yourself for the future? That's really what you're talking about, right? The most precious thing on earth. You need air, we need water, we need Bitcoin.
Yes, let's move a bit to the institutional adoption. We have seen the ETFs, and you can also share your view on that. How can you think that all of these institutions, even one day the banks maybe, or anybody, in form of corporate, can align their values and operation with the decentralized nature of Bitcoin? Of course, are two opposite things, but we have some TF to custodians. How can do you think these two words can merge in a way in the future, like custodians can be multi-party custodians, this way decentralizing a bit, avoiding the centralization, or is impossible, or maybe new technologies in the future? Is there any interest from the corporate world to adjust to the value of Bitcoin for some reason, maybe to attract more customers, or just for that reason mainly, or the decentralization and the corporate values impossible to work in pair, in your opinion?
Yeah, I just don't think Bitcoin has caught on yet. People get all worked up over how many coins that the ETFs are buying. I don't personally know anyone that has bought those ETFs outside of my friends, you guys, that are in Bitcoin. When I ask my normie friends hey, did you buy any of the BlackRock ETF? It's always no. I don't think institutions are considering Bitcoin. I'm not sure what the reason is. I find it hilarious that you've got Tahini's, right? That store that sells food. They're a restaurant and they own Bitcoin on their balance sheet, and yet you've got Apple who doesn't. It's mind-boggling. But again, maybe those folks inside those corporations aren't really having a very serious conversation with themselves over, what's at stake, what's at play. And I just find it mind-boggling that after Russia and the Ukraine war breaks out, and we sanction Russia and punish them, take assets away from them, essentially, I find it mind-boggling that people still own bonds, or that people still trust the U.S. government when it comes to their own money. So many of us have had banking issues because, we have a Bitcoin business, or we work in Bitcoin, and somehow our bank doesn't like that. Some banks I know are, kind of turning a blind eye, but And then you've got Custodia, who's focused on helping Bitcoin businesses. Again, I just don't think people are paying attention. I'm not quite sure what it takes. I think the price has to be much higher. I'm not sure 100 is high enough.
Well, the argument that the corporate world can be scared about having their bank account closed and not having access to credit anymore if they delve into Bitcoin is compelling. What do you think?
I'm sorry, I couldn't really hear you.
No, the fact that the corporate and the businesses can be scared to dip into Bitcoin because they might have their bank account closed or not access to credit anymore, which is vital for most of the businesses.
Yeah. I don't think, though. Sorry to interrupt you, but I don't think any large scale business is afraid that the banks will close their accounts. Certainly, no public company by taking on Bitcoin would have a bank account closed. And let's just say that they did. I mean, they all have 5, 15, whatever bank relationships. So I don't think that's the threat at all. They, from what I've heard from folks that went to the MicroStrategy conference for companies, that there really weren't many companies that were there. There were a lot of Bitcoin companies there and a lot of us there, but there weren't really a whole lot of outsiders. So, God bless him for continuing to do that conference, and I hope they do it every year. If we remember back to when Apple Computer was launched, they really focused on the fact that they didn't need to reach everybody. They just wanted to focus on serving the people that wanted what they had, right? They focused on the fringe. And right now we are the fringe, and that's totally okay. Just as it has turned out to be fine for Apple's ecosystem to market, their first couple of products to the fringe. When something is pristine and better than everything else, it just catches on.
A good point on this. Also, we were in Prague with Francesco was in Prague. We were in Prague, and there were mostly Bitcoiners. Not very many new people interested in Bitcoin. I think on this, it's very important to have very known and respected and important people, not in the Bitcoin world, like worldwide, that they are moving towards Bitcoin. I'm thinking, for example, in the last weeks, Michael Dell is tweeting, so the CEO of Dell is tweeting about Bitcoin. And he wrote also one poll saying which is the most important thing. And he put also Bitcoin among the 4 options, and Bitcoin won this poll. Also, Corey Clipstein, the CEO of Swan, also tweets that the most important people we have now in Bitcoin, like Michael Saylor, Max Kaiser, they became famous thanks to Bitcoin. So thanks God that we have them, but they were not worldwide famous before Bitcoin. The next step is to have people like Michael Dell or CEO of Apple or others as much as famous as them, moving towards Bitcoin. And think also on this, Dave Portnoy, very famous influencer of investing, he released a video yesterday saying, if you are interested you should be interested in crypto, and it's not crypto, it's just one coin, it's Bitcoin. In this kind of statement can help the ecosystem to move towards the new joiners, because likely the no coiners are not listening too much to me, you or Francesco, but they are listening to them. And if they become curious, then maybe they will discover podcasts, and they will discover our podcast, and then they will listen to us. But the first trigger should come maybe from other people more popular, people they know more.
Yeah, I think we all just need to keep doing what we're doing. I mean, thank you for hosting this space, religiously, no pun intended, because what I'm about to say is, to me, Bitcoin is a win when we're not focused on the Michael Saylors of the world, but we're focused on, wow, my church just bought Bitcoin. My Bible study group is talking about Bitcoin, right? Like, Bitcoin is such a grassroots, for the people, by the people, that to have to have it spread just in a very organic nature, I think is an extremely powerful tool. But that, it's reliant upon you and I going to talk to groups that are outside of Twitter. It's why I try to post on LinkedIn every day. It's why I try to attend meetups in every city that I go to, and invite people to go to meetups, right? Like, we all need to just kind of remember those basic steps of how to get people into our ecosystem. It's probably, as much as we love Twitter, it's probably not here. They're probably not going to find us. We have to go to them.
Got it. Yes, true, definitely. Also, Twitter, there are many Bitcoiners, but probably there are also other platform or also real meetup. And one question is that once you try to, you make sure, you make clear that you are an advocate for Bitcoin. If this person is pushing back and negative on Bitcoin skeptic, are you going on and trying to explain, or you are focusing more of people who are or neutral or interested in Bitcoin after you have the first maybe 2 minutes or 5 minutes?
Yeah. I'm not interested in speaking to someone that is a naysayer of Bitcoin. I learned this lesson from Parker Lewis, who used to just say, focus on the folks that self-select. So focus on the people that show up at your meetups, focus at the people, when you go to drop off your dry cleaning or whatever, right? Like, the people that ask you about Bitcoin, someone in your daily life asks you about Bitcoin, focus on them, send them Bitcoin, help them open a wallet or help them open a Cash App account or whatever it is that they're most comfortable with. I mean, that's typically what I do. It's like, okay, well, I can show you how to download a Bitcoin wallet. It's really easy. They'll go to the App Store, they'll look at it. And then it's always, okay, well, how do I buy Bitcoin? And I'll say, do you have Cash App? Yes. Okay, amazing. Open your Cash App. And I send them Cash App, right? I send them Bitcoin over Cash App. You can then continue all of the other steps, the 57 other steps after, acquiring the Bitcoin. But just focus on the folks that want to know and put it in their hands. I find that I have there's nothing more compelling than when I send Bitcoin to someone, and they'll say, oh my gosh, I had no idea this is what this was. It's like, yes, now it's actually money that you can use to communicate your preference with someone that is in, Timbuktu, right? That's what money is. Money is a method for us to convey what our preferences are.
Interesting. Thanks for the insight. I agree as well. I think it's a lesson that every Bitcoiners learn. Once you have a decent understanding of Bitcoin, you want to proactively talk to everyone about Bitcoin. But then after you see the pushback, you say, okay, no, it's better if I focus. It's better that people I know in my surround knows that I'm a Bitcoin advocate, and in case they ask, I will spending time for them and not just debating on Bitcoin. Also because as Sailor said, they don't exist informed critics. People are buying these misconceptions, and they're thinking they are true statements. And if they make them as a statements, it's very hard to debunk if they already think that is the truth, if they don't question them. So maybe yes, and it's not worth our time to spend time with them, but we should spend time with people interested in Bitcoin. Francesco?
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. You know what? I was actually just sitting here scrolling through the people that are listening. Thank you, by the way, for hanging out with us today. And I'm trying to follow back folks that have connected with me. But what I'm noticing is that many of these people, many of y'all, are not posting. And maybe that's on purpose. But, if you are at all inclined to spread this message, please spread this message, because every voice is really impactful. You will reach someone else that I can't reach, or that the others on this space cannot reach. Your voice is hugely impactful. So please if you're comfortable, use your voice, tweet, LinkedIn, talk to friends. And anyway, thank you for connecting.
Thanks for the remark.
No, absolutely. I was just saying that what we just acknowledged brings to my mind what Mark Moss always says, and I have an idea for the next guest. Maybe I like him very much. And he say you have to awake the sleeping lion, not everybody, and that makes a lot of sense. What I was saying. Then we have a broad range of people who had dealt with Bitcoin also in the past. There are people who have sold early, so they find an excuse why they have sold. So there is all a different psychology there. You have to be aware. All of these people who picked the wrong fork in 2017, and many very broad psychology. So fundamentals are vital in this field.
Yes, agree, Francesco. I think we are approaching also 1.5 hours in total. Maybe we can move towards the end of the space. Firstly, so Lisa, thanks a lot to join us. It was many important insights. Not last but not least, the last one to everyone to spread the message. Do you have closing remarks for our listeners?
Buy Bitcoin.
100, buy Bitcoin and agree 100%. Also, we'll say adding studying Bitcoin in parallel.
I would say easier said than done, but we are here for this reason, to facilitate this process. Yeah, it was amazing having you, Lisa, and I hope it will be time in the following months or next year to hang up again.
Sure, and we will have the chance also to discuss in more X spaces. I think also in the last 3 months, also the frequency of space in X also decreased also because of the price. Once we go again 75, 80, 85, there will be much more sparkle in the air. So there will be more spaces, and we will have also more and more chances to speak again. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, guys.
Hello, everybody.
Bye. Have a nice day or have a nice evening for all. Bye-bye.